Thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Alexander, and thank you, Jill, for hosting us today, for welcoming us today on your Build Up web portal with our webinar on the EE05 call on deep renovation. We are very pleased to see how many of our participants are interested in this call and are probably already busy preparing their proposals. We are very much looking forward to receiving them at the very latest on the 4th of June. And yes, we thought it would be good to explain a bit about this call so that you can even fine-tune your proposals even better. That's why we are here. As Alexander said, my name is Janna Schönfeld, and I'm here with Zoe Wilders, my colleague. Good afternoon, everybody. And we are both working in the Horizon 2020 Energy Unit of the EASME agency, so the Executive Agency for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. We are in charge of energy efficiency programs funded by the European Commission. There's quite a number of different calls, but we are focusing only on one today, on this famous EE05 call on deep renovation. So let's start with our first presentation. We will have two presentations today. Yeah, here you can see so the full title. I have to admit it's a very long and detailed title of our call: increasing energy performance of existing buildings through process and organization innovations, and creating a market for deep renovation. So on our agenda today, we have those two presentations. The first we are right now in already. We are presenting the call in more detail, briefly the policy context, then we talk about the challenge, the budget, the scope, impact of the proposals to be expected, and we will finish with some lessons learned and frequently asked questions. As you might know, this call is open for the second year. It was already open 2014, and so we have already some experience we can share with you.
In the second presentation, which will mainly be done by me, I'll give you some explanation on how to write a good proposal. Basically, I'll explain what is expected from the proposals and give you some tips on do's and don'ts.
And we will finish, if we have time, with spontaneous questions. We already received one question beforehand and three this morning. So yeah, we will go through them and see how much time is left then, because we have a busy program today. Okay, briefly for the policy context. This is just to show you, you are probably familiar with the EU's 2020 targets for climate change and energy and the 2030 targets. These are high-level political targets. Under that, you have actually the next level, the concrete legislation, basically EU legislation, which are called directives. We are giving here an example of 3 directives, which might be of importance to your project. It depends on your project. And the last level, your national and regional policy context. Please don't forget also to take that into account and explain it in your proposal. I'm not going into more details here because actually you are supposed to dig deeper into those questions and present them in your proposal. Again, just a quick overview of our 2020 and 2030 objectives. And I come directly to the challenge. You will see when you look at the call text, it starts with a specific challenge. So basically what this call is all about, what are we looking for? We are looking for proposals which address the question of how can we create a market, or how can we create a bigger market for deep renovation in the EU. We want to increase the rate of deep renovation or nearly zero energy building renovations, and a particular tool therefore is process and organization innovation. Well, we have an indicative budget for each, well, for one action basically, for each action. So we thought like with 1.5 to 2 million EU support, you could successfully address this challenge. However, this does not exclude that you come up with different figures, lower or higher. That's perfectly possible. It just needs justification. So going again to the call text, you see as the next topic actually the scope. And you see that what is really crucial in this call is we focus on removing market barriers. How can we overcome the market barriers which are still quite persistent for the moment in the market, as you all know? Otherwise we would have much more deep renovations already nowadays. We have heterogeneity of the construction industry. We have different actors in the market which don't always work closely together. So this is our major challenge. That's why we are looking for proposals which actually address really different actors and bring them together, and probably also different barriers and different issues we have here. So the idea is to come with a sort of a package, a convincing answer to the complex reality of the split offer for the moment. And the aim is to trigger really structural changes in the market. We are not talking about isolated small actions in some 1 or 2 or 3 corners of the EU. We really are looking for structural changes in the market in your participant countries. You can actually address all kind of building types. Important is that we are focusing on the existing and most inefficient buildings. So this is not a call with a focus on new constructions. We are looking for really, as I said, deep renovation. Okay. As you can also see from the call, it is important that you address at least one of the 3 following elements, activities. You can address 1, 2, or 3, whatever fits your proposal best. We're talking about product and process innovation in the construction sector, and to improve to improve the offers for deep renovation, which are currently on the market, or to bring better offers actually onto the market. The second element is we are addressing actually the current regulations in place, the current legal frameworks, and how to implement them better, how to develop them further, how to test them. This can include also, for instance, property valuation techniques. It can be about how to improve decision making for renovation strategies. Also, for instance, in multi-tenant or multi-owner buildings, for instance. But it can also be for individuals. We're looking at ways to improve quality standards and inspection and monitoring mechanisms, and crucially to bridge the gap between expected and actual energy performance. So, and the third possible element is to look at finance. As you probably know, financing for deep renovation is still quite an issue. It's not easy to find appropriate financing. So you can also tackle this topic. On the impact, and you will hear quite a bit on impact today, actually, because it's apparently it hasn't been easy in the past for many proposals to address this properly, the impact part. So we are expecting actually that your action triggers the renovation of existing buildings towards high energy performance, or raising quality and compliance, or both. And the target, as you're probably aware, is to have at least 25 gigawatt hours per year savings per million euro of EU support. I think what this means we come to a bit later as well in concrete terms. Exactly. So this is what we expect to be triggered at the end of the action. Of your action. So this can be measured additionally also by investment in sustainable energy. So you will be asked to quantify investment in sustainable energy during your project lifetime, to look at better implementation of policies, and to influence the relevant actors, decision makers on the market, but also kind of policy actors. So we have brought to you a few lessons learned from the 2014 call on the same topic. And we have seen some proposals had difficulties to really focus on basically what we just mentioned, on the core parts of this topic. And they were going too broad, and we couldn't really see the real focus on deep renovation. We also saw that not all proposals are fully clear, specific, and coherent and quantified. I think one problem which could particularly occur this year is actually if you resubmit a proposal you have submitted maybe already last year and you resubmit it maybe in an improved version. It's very important to go through it again from the first to the last letter, because otherwise we often have incoherences, copy and paste from other calls or other proposals with other actors in it, and that's definitely a big minus point. It's very important to quantify the impact during the project period. So really to see, to start bottom up really, I mean, what are the baselines? For instance, for deep renovation, what is the baseline? What are your starting points? What are the costs currently? You define your own starting points. You have to bring credible baselines and best to reference them with existing sources. And from there on to construct your impact, towards what is expected in the call. Also very important, sometimes it's missing, how will you actually measure your impact? Please specify that as well. We also saw in the past too much focus on the state of the art, big work packages focusing on basically doing research again about what exists, at the detriment of the concrete new actions you want to propose, and at the detriment of testing and monitoring if what you propose works. So, frequently asked questions from last and this year. You probably have seen, you have basically two in the form you have to fill in when you fill in your proposal online. You have two different expected impacts to be measured in renewable and in energy efficiency, so energy savings. And so we were asked, is it not sufficient actually to just, for instance, let's say, insulate a building and not to add any renewables? And there we have to say, we are looking towards NZEP and really highest performance, so renewables should always be taken into consideration. However, there might be situations, and for your proposals, where this is not feasible or cost effective, and you can make that clear as well. You don't have to provide all the details already in the proposal, but at least basically a starting point. The next question, what do you mean by we're expected to reach energy savings of 25 gigawatt hours per year per million of EU support? And by when are we supposed to reach this? We are, of course, aware that your project lifetime is limited, also given the budget we have indicated. And that means not all projects might be able to concretely see all those savings already fully done during the lifetime of the project. Also, it does not mean that you have in the first, second, third, fourth year, however how many years you have, that you have to have even energy savings in each year. It doesn't mean it. What we are actually looking for is we need the energy savings to be clearly triggered, reliably proven, triggered at the latest by the end of the action. And you are free to do this in different ways, whichever you think is best. There are different ways of doing this. what we need to be sure that we will have this assurance that those savings are realized and that they are of the magnitude you propose. And also one question was always, are we talking about primary or final energy savings? So it's always primary we're talking about. You find that also again in the template which is in your participant portal for your proposal. That it states clearly it has to be. But by the way, this template which is in the participants portal, which gives more detail, is very, very useful. I encourage you all to look at it in detail. It gives many hints and more information where you can find, for instance, conversion tables from final to primary energy, how you deal with different national circumstances and so onwards. So we have 2 more questions, which you will also find actually in our frequently asked questions document online on the participant portal. So what is the definition of deep renovation? So we answer, of course, with EU documents without claiming that this is the only official and correct definition. But according to the Energy Efficiency Directive, a deep renovation is a cost-effective renovation which leads to refurbishment and reduces the delivered and the final energy consumption of a building by a significant percentage, of course, compared to pre-renovation. And this is leading to a very high energy performance. You could also carry out those renovations in stages or in steps. The next question we have received is, what do you really expect in terms of energy savings from a typical deep renovation? And there we are guiding you towards this staff working paper, which says typically this would be of more than 60% energy savings compared to before. Again, this is not set in stone. It's just to provide you some guidance if needed. And that's actually it for my first presentation. You find here 3 links for further, 2 links and our email address for further information. And I think we are going on. We are going on with a question we have received beforehand for this webinar. And I will go quickly through it because I think I actually covered most of it already in my presentation. So we said we are looking for primary energy savings. Next part of the question is, I said not all the savings have to be fully realized during the project lifetime, but they have to be triggered, reliably proven triggered during the lifetime of your project. And basically it's additional. You have to show that you can reach those 25 gigawatt hours per year per million euro funding. I said it's again an orientation marker. It's not set in stone. It's what we more or less expect. And in addition, we are also asking for 3 very concrete indicators, and that's the investment made by the stakeholders, better implementation of policies, so basically a policy document or policy-related indicator, and the number of policymakers or building owners, operators, or other relevant stakeholders influenced. Yes, and you are indeed asked to quantify them, even though I have to say, if you look again at the template I already mentioned several times, a technical template in your participant portal, you will see that you're not obliged to use all 3 of them. It depends on your proposal actually, and on what you exactly want to do. If you basically want to use those 3 indicators. Okay, and official calculation methods, databases. Again, you find actually some guidance, for instance, to an IEA database and calculation methods in the famous template. But actually, that doesn't mean you have to use it. Any other reliable official source which is credible can also be used. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will hand over now to my colleague Zoe.
Okay, Thank you, Janna. So we're now going to upload our second presentation, and this is going to give you some more details on how to submit